I said, get in, my name's Bonehead, which, and I did it. He had this big joint going. He said, I know where your brother is. So he took me to this house where there was all these guys, no girls. Everybody's playing guitar and listening to music. My brother wasn't there, but they were getting ready to go to a party. I love to party, even still. So I went with them, and my brother wasn't there either. So, but there was this other guy that I talk about a lot, that I still talk to a lot too. His name was Todd, they called him, and he was about, he was huge. He gets mad because of how big I say he is on the live album, but I think he was that big. And he was very funny, and everybody was gathered around him, half laughing because he was funny and half laughing because he was huge. And I sort of felt some safety in that, you know, if you're new in a group and you just kind of sit around where everyone was laughing. So I sat around. Those guys that my brother said were going to let me stay on his couch were not going to. And this guy, Trog, and his friends said they had a place that I could crash. And so I went over there and I started staying there on their floor. And every night they'd listen to whatever music that Trog wanted to listen to because he was so big. They just always, we all did what he said, you know. And he would play Jerry Jeff Walker, and it captivated me the first time I heard it. And we went to see Jerry Jeff play at a place called Green Hall. And I remember, as soon as I saw him get up there, he was just sitting up there like me doing this, and I thought, fuck, I could do that. But also, it occurred to me in that moment, because I was the local sofa circuit guy and hitchhiker, and that you couldn't get girls that way. But it occurred to me that if you threw a guitar into that picture, or also it occurred to me watching this guy sing about this life that I was living, that it was like, there's a very fine line between a freeloader and a free spirit. And sometimes it's just 3 fucking chords on the guitar. And so I got obsessed with Jerry Jeff Walker, and I went out and I bought all his albums, and I went to his shows and learned to play guitar from sitting here and play places like this. And his big song is Mr. Bojangles. You know that. That's his name. But anyway, I started following him around, and
not working, Todd.
I broke it.
Microphone shot, dude.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show.
well, I guess we're going to take a little break, y'all. I didn't expect this, but I think the PA system was crowded out. Oh, now it's all the way out. I feel like they'll be able to fix it, but if they can't fix it, we'll find a way to make everybody happy, like we'll all be shouts or something. We might have to get really quiet, you know.
Brian's giving you a thumbs up.
Oh, there we go. Hey. So anyway, I was telling you that I got obsessed. I got all these Jerry Jeff Walker records. There's like 30 of them. I got them in a month. And I noticed that he had this unique thing about himself, whereas instead of recording in a studio, he would record in a bar. Mostly because he's an alcoholic. But also because studios are sort of sterile, you know, especially if you're an alcoholic. And so since he'd written Bojangles, he kind of got his way, and he had this bar in this town called Luckenbach that only had a population of 3 people. And I had a goal, and the only goal I ever had in my whole life. After that goal, I realized that goals were stupid and I was never going to have another one. But I wanted to, which they are, in my opinion. But anyway, I wanted to play at Green Hall, and I sent them a tape that I made. They never called me back. One day they finally called me back. We were watching WKRP in Cincinnati, and they said this guy had canceled and that I could cover for him. So I asked Trog if we could do that, and we all headed down to the Devil's, we headed down to Lukenbach for this gig, started heading down this thing called the Devil's Backbone Highway, which is where this song comes from. We couldn't find Lukenbach because tourists steal the signs to get there for their garages and shit. And men, of course, it's a very old joke that men don't ask directions, so we just drove around. And then we finally came upon this bar called the Devil's Backbone Tavern. And they said, because it was my gig, I had to be the one that would go in. And it was rough. There were like 10 people in there and like 18 teeth. And there was this woman behind the bar, like an older woman, Miss Virgie, who you had asked about. And she seemed like the nicest, so I went up and I asked her how to get to Lukenbach. And no kidding, she said, "Fuck Lukenbach, drink with us." And so of course we did, if you're going to come at it with that kind of spirit, So I went out and I got my buddies and we blew off the gig that we wanted so bad, and we took the new one. And by the end of the night, they didn't make us pay for our beer, and we had a good time. And I started going back there on lots of Fridays, and then I moved to Memphis and ended up, I was living on the floor of the girls' dorm at Rose College just for a couple of months. I was smelling that. And I made up this song for Miss Virgie that's become sort of a longer and longer story as I've gone through my life. Oh, Miss Virgie, she tended bar, had a shack out in them hills. It never paid no money, boys, but it paid up all of her bills. She must have been 80 years old, but her heart was warm and her beer was cold, and she gave away more than she ever sold, and she was smiling all the time. I used to sing off in the corner of the bars like every Friday night to every out crowd of cowboys, every biker's Barbara and fight. They'd be drinking beer and they'd be carrying on. None of them would be listening to one of my songs, but old Miss Virgie, she'd be singing along. She said she knew all my songs by heart. And then one night, after closing up, she poured me a beer. She said, "Come over here and sit down, you little shit. I've got something that you need to hear." She said, "Life isn't easy getting through. Everybody gonna try to make it tough on you. I'll tell you right now, if you dig what you do, no, they'll never ever get you down." She said, "Life's too short to worry. Life's too long to wait. It's too short not to love everybody. Life's too long to hate. I meet a lot of men that haggle and finagle all the time, trying to save a nickel, maybe make it down. Not me, boy, no siree, Lord, I ain't got no time. I ain't seen old Virgie, I guess probably been 15 years. I've been bumming around this country. I sing my songs for tips and beers, most of the beers. Now the nights are long, the driving's tough. Hotels are weirder than pay stuff. I can't dig what I do enough, Lord, it never ever gets me down. I like to say, life's too short to worry. Life's too long to wait. Well, it's too short not to love everybody. Life's too long to hate. I meet a lot of men that haggle and finagle all the time, trying to save a nickel, maybe make it dime. Not me, boy, no siree. Hate, I ain't got no time. Not me, Lord, no siree. I said I ain't got no time. Is that all right if I keep telling the story for you? I tell you, the one thing about this song that I like a lot is that guitar solo bit right there. And that was mostly because there was this one other fucking guy that would talk like 4 teeth to himself in the corner of this bar. And he would bother me about not being able to play as well as Eddie Van Halen. So when I came up with this song, I came up with this part right here. But that's not really the end of the story either. See, this song, I started playing this song in like 1989. And it was by about the time of 1993 that I got to make an album. And in the years between those years, I went and saw Jerry Jeff all the time. I wrote him a lot of letters that I didn't send. Sometimes I would bring them to the shows and I wouldn't give them to him. But I felt like I was his son, I really did. And one time I was living in Memphis and I got this opportunity to open for him. And I thought, man, this is it, because I'd had a few chances to meet him and I'd chickened out. And I was like, this is going to be it. I'm going to meet him. I had it all worked out in my head. I'd worked all these scenarios out so many times. Went down to the gig, do my portion of the gig, come off the stage, and there he is in the dressing room with this chick next to him, and she's yelling at him. At first it sounds like she's mad, but then when you listen close, she's saying nice things to him, and just loud and angrily, and he's looking confused, and it occurs to me that she snuck backstage and she doesn't know him, and she's fucked up. You know? Then she turns and sees me, and says, you just played too. Here, sign my poster. Jerry Jeff, turn around. Here, let me put this on your back. And in all the scenarios that I had imagined about meeting this guy that I admired so much, this fucking bitch was in none of them. But I had this thing already worked out to say. So as I went to sign his back, or the thing, I said, this is the highlight of my life. And I think he misunderstood what I meant, maybe not, but he said, pretty boring life so far, kid. And I took that personally, and I started living even a little harder. And I kept traveling and working on my songs, and by '94, I got to make an album of my own, and I was on the road, and I told my manager if I could ever get on a bill or anything around Jerry Jeff, I would really like another chance to meet him. So we get on some bill, and I am on there with him, and I see him across the backstage, and I don't want to fuck it up, so I just run up and I hug him, and I tell him that he's my king. And he starts looking at me kind of like he was looking at that chick in the dressing room in Memphis, but I said, no, I'm Todd Snider, and I'm on the bill. Like that made it okay to just run over and tackle some guy. But I sing too. I don't know. But I said, I'm your biggest fan. I know everything about you. I know all your songs. And he said, oh, I doubt that, boy. But then we got to be friends, and I'm not shitting you, on more than one occasion, like a dozen occasions at least, I've not just beat him, but kicked his ass in Jerry Jeff Walker trivia contest. There's been many witnesses to this. And he calls me sometime. In fact, my favorite thing in the world is when I'm at home and he'll call me from a hotel to tell him words to one of his songs because he wants to sing it. That makes me so happy. And then one time, a couple years after we met each other, we decided, he asked me if I wanted to go to Belize. He's got a house down there, and he wanted me to go snorkeling with him to see all this coral reef, right, that he had been talking about. So we get in this boat, we go out into this area. It takes a while to get there. He has to talk to some guy to get us in there. He says it's going to blow my mind. Teaches me how to put the mask on, fall out of the boat, blow the thing out, open your eyes. It's going to blow your mind, the beautiful reefs. So I flip out of the back of this fucking boat, and I push the water out, and I open my eyes, and I'm not kidding. I don't mean when I say sharks, I don't mean like a shark or two sharks. I mean there was like 14 sharks fucking everywhere, and immediately between me even and getting back to the boat, and below me was those stingray things, like fucking lots of them, and no coral reef at all. And so I jump up out of the water screaming, and he's laughing so hard. This is making him so happy. And I realize that maybe, there's been some kind of trick. And I say, I can't come back to the boat. There's like 3 sharks. And he said, swim at them. They're like ducks. And I said, like ducks that are going to eat your fucking face. And he said, no. So I just swam at them, and they scattered like ducks, I guess. And then I got on there, and I found out that this place he had taken me was like a tame animal park and had nothing to do with coral reefs. And he'd been setting that trick up for like months. months. This is the kind of guy he is. So then, which is why I don't mind telling you this story, because he deserves it. In fact, I've had women come up and go, you shouldn't tell that story on that nice old man. Fuck him, man. So listen, like now we're talking about the late 90s, and I'm still on the road. I've been on the road for about 5 years. And back in those days, I used to carry a tackle box that I would keep all the drugs that people would give to me on the road. Because in you're a musician, people just give you drugs. That's one of the good things about it. And girls, you know, you get to meet girls that would never talk to you. And then people just give you their drugs. And I don't want to be rude, and you can't take them all at the same time, you know. So I would save them. I would even save the kind, if I didn't like a drug, I'd still save it just in case somebody else wanted it. So I had pretty much a hospital that I was walking around in almost at all times. And Jerry Jeff thought that was really funny. And one night we were in New Orleans, I was playing, and he showed up, and he came back in the dressing room, and he saw the tackle box, and he said, what do you got in the box tonight, boy? And I remember that I had always heard that in the 70s, everybody did cocaine. My generation, that wasn't a thing as much, you know, but his generation did a ton of it, and I know that people used to call him Mr. Blowjangles. And so I said, well, I got cocaine in there, man. And he said, oh, God, man, I used to come down here to New Orleans and just roar on that shit in the 70s. You can't even talk about it. So, as soon as he said, I used to roar down here in New Orleans in the 70s on this shit, I'm not a good friend. If we ever get to know each other, just know that right off the bat. I'm not. As soon as he said that, I was like, come on, let's do it. And I eventually talked him into it. And we went back to his house. I don't really know how to do that very good. And so we go back to his house, and we do a little cocaine, we're drinking a little bit, we're smoking some weed, and now we get to the portion of the story where I'm telling you what everybody else told me. So they said that I stood up and said, all right, let's go out on the quarter, and then I fell down onto this table, this glass table of theirs, and started doing the fish on the bottom of the boat dance and throwing up all over their stuff. Yeah, it sounds sad even in hindsight, but I don't give a shit. So I'm flopping on this guy's fucking floor, and him and my buddies and his buddies are dragging me over, and they throw me in the shower, they said, and which I guess is what you do. Then I remember waking up in the middle of that night on a sofa, not knowing where I was or what had happened the night before. And in those days, that wasn't that uncommon either, that you just sort of wake up and start trying to figure out where you were and how you were going to get back to the band. So I have my eyes closed, but I know I'm not in a room, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get back to the band when I hear these feet stomping. And that starts to scare me because I don't know where the fuck I am. I just know somebody's pacing up and down next to me. And then I hear this voice, angry voice go, never again, boy. God damn it, never, ever, fucking never again. Just saying that over and over. And I recognized, okay, this is Jerry Jeff's voice, and he's pissed. And I didn't want to open my eyes. So he stops right in front of me, and I hear both feet, boom, bam, and he says, did you hear me, boy? I said never, ever, fucking again. And so I open my eyes, and I try to put this delicately, but like a foot from my face, Jerry Jeff sleeps naked. And when he woke up to yell at me, he must have been in a hurry. So he didn't put anything on. And so there is a chapter in our book called Jerry Jeff Walker's Balls. And I meant more chutzpah, you know. But in that moment, I thought, well, I'll tell you, since that moment, people have offered me cocaine many times, and every time they offer it to me, I picture what you paid too much to get in here for me to describe orally. And I think it might have saved my life. Shit, might even help one of you guys. And now, but to make a short story really long, about a year and a half ago, he asked me if I wanted to go to Santa Fe with him. He likes to show me little parts of towns that he's cultivated for himself, and he loves that Santa Fe. And we flew up there together, no show or anything, just to have fun. And we went to this old bar that he said him and this guy named Joe Ely used to close all the time. And so him and I set out to close this bar, and we were drinking, and he lets me ask him all these great questions about his music and his songs. And when the night got over, it was about 3:30 in the morning, and the bartender, last guy in the place, says, I have to get you guys out of here, I'm sorry. We get up to leave, walk out on the street. I swear to you, there's no one, no cars, no people, no cops, no nothing, just me and him walking down this really quiet street in the middle of the night towards our hotel. And up in the distance, I swear to you, you hear this. It was like this. Which some of you may recognize as the beginning of that song, Mr. Bojangles. And here it was, we're hearing it wafting down the street at 4 in the morning. I'm walking with the guy who wrote the damn thing. And I say, you hear that? I said, yeah, we got to go check out what that is. So we turned the corner in front of this old blues bar. There was no chance of anyone hearing this. He had a hat on the ground like he was going to get a tip, but there was no chance. There was no one there. This crazy old fucker with a guitar, standing on the corner, singing to heaven for all the right reasons, you know. And here comes the guy who wrote the song that he's singing down the road, and I get to be there, you know. And so I say, let's go up and listen to him. And as we're listening to him, I think, I got to tell this guy that this guy wrote the song. You know, there's a magic moment. But I thought, you know, that's not my place. I'll see if Jerry Jeff does that. So the song got over and he didn't do that. He said, that's a pretty good song, isn't it? And then he threw all his money in the guy's hat. And we started walking back down the hotel. And we have that memory between us. So I turned to him and I said, that might have been the highlight of my life. And he said, yeah, that was a good one for me too. And so, if you don't mind, I know that a lot of people have sung this song, but it makes me feel good to sing it, and so I hope you'll indulge me.